creating and connecting professional development opportunities for the homeless. My name is Catherine Daria, and I am the volunteer and training coordinator here at Sacramento Steps Forward. And we're really happy to have you here all and engage with us on this topic. If you don't already know us, Sacramento Steps Forward is the lead agency for the Sacramento COC, and it is the regional body that coordinates housing and homeless services. Our organization does provide these core services that are listed here on our slide. And part of our work is to offer you, our homeless providers, and our coordinated entry teams with these ongoing sessions to address HUD-specified topics for your continued learning, as well as to help address the emerging needs and questions that our outreach staff have. And so today we'll be joined by Rachel Davidson and Heather Frick from Downtown Streets team. They will be sharing about the origins and the current work of DST, including their volunteer cohorts comprised by persons with lived experience of homelessness. We'll also be discussing the gaps and opportunities in offering and connecting folks to these employment opportunities, and also discuss how we might better collaborate within Sacramento to help bridge these gaps. And so throughout today's presentation, you are welcome to share resources, ask questions, or comment in chat. We'll be monitoring it throughout the presentation, and we'll plan to address those questions during Q&A. We won't be having an official a break for this session, but if you do need to step away, feel free to do so. And today I'm very pleased to introduce Rachel Davidson, who is the director at Downtown Streets team. She has been working alongside the unhoused community with DST for 7 years and brought the program to Sacramento and Yolo counties in 2018. Rachel is driven by passion to shift the perception and narrative of homelessness in the capital while building a pathway to sustainable employment and community integration for our neighbors. Heather Frick has been with Downtown Streets team in a project manager role for over 2 years now. In the last month, Heather has brought her passion, commitment, and wisdom to the side of the river after successfully managing the West Sacramento team. Heather is led by her integrity and compassion and is making a meaningful impact partnering with guests of the X Street Navigation Center, as well as DST's first and only women's team at the Meadowview Navigation Center. Okay, Rachel and Heather, please take it away.
Awesome. Thank you, Nika. Hi, everyone. It's so good to see you all here. I feel like we've actually been a little bit like out of the loop, if you will, for the last 6 months, just really putting our head down and focusing on our mission here in Sacramento. So it's exciting to be able to share with all of you kind of what we're up to now, because it has changed a lot through the course of the last year and a half. And we're really excited about where we are. Couple of quick disclaimers. I am at home today for the first time in quite some time, and I have a dog. And she has decided that now is the best time to just have her full rev up of energy. So I apologize in advance for any barking or like little pop-ups that she does. That's probably going to become a real thing. But her name's Amelia, and she's excited to be here with us as well. All right. With that said, I'm going to go ahead and share the screen. One kind of quick note and shout out that I just wanted to give. So my title is actually the Sacramento Area Director. Our founder and CEO is based in our headquarters office down in San Jose, but I'm really thrilled to be the Sacramento Area Director. I have my incredible colleague Heather here. She's going to talk a little bit in the slideshow as well. And I just wanted to give a huge shout out to Nika. Thank you so much for your incredible patience and organization over the last month putting this together, and with our ridiculous schedules that Heather and I have. Really, really appreciate you being so flexible and making sure that we could do this. So huge thank you to you. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen now and get things rocking and rolling. Let's see here. Can I do it? Yes, I can. All right. Can someone just give me like a little thumbs up? Can everyone see this?
Yes, we're seeing this.
Awesome. So good. Okay. So I'm going to jump right into it. I'm going to share with everyone just a little bit of our history, kind of how we came to be, how our program model came about, what the heck we're doing up here in Sacramento and Yolo counties, what COVID has looked like for us, because it brought a lot of big shifts for us, what we're doing now, and then kind of open the discussion as to what are some of the gaps from our perspective, knowing that our perspective is just one little perspective in a big ocean of service providers. And so we would really love to hear from all of you. Like, what are your perspectives? Is there a way in which we can collaborate? Can we support you in doing the work that you're doing on the ground? Because we would love to be able to do that, and really love to be able to continue to cultivate and nurture this this kind of attitude, if you will, of collaboration here in Sacramento. It's been something that, in full transparency, has been a struggle for us since coming up here and starting 3.5 years ago with the winter triage shelter on Railroad Drive. So we'd love to dig into that a little bit deeper. Okay, if I can find my arrow here. Boom, here we go. So Downtown Street Team was formed in 2005 in downtown Palo Alto. If anyone's ever spent some time in Palo Alto, the downtown area is University Avenue. It's closely connected to Stanford University, thus the name. And in 2005, it was really, the downtown area was really starting to struggle with some of the impacts of homelessness on the small business owners. Prices had just skyrocketed, was out of control in Silicon Valley at the time, as it was earning its Silicon Valley title. And so the downtown partnership, PBID, it's similar to, not similar, but the same, right, as like the downtown partnership, Midtown Alliance, right, those organizations. They really wanted to come up with a way to address the impact on small businesses in a compassionate manner. They wanted to figure out something that was sustainable. And so our model actually was born out of a business improvement district, which is something that's pretty unique, I think, for a homeless services organization. And so the idea that they came up with, honestly, it's not the craziest idea. A lot of people, I think, have thought about this before. Is if we can ask some of the folks who are panhandling out front of businesses to start doing a little bit of cleanup and then assist them in meeting their needs, maybe we can do something that's going to help folks navigate services, get their needs met, and not have as much of an impact on the businesses. And keep in mind that this was driven from a business owner perspective, right, at the time. So that was kind of the lens. So one of the core beliefs that we still hold on to that's really important to the way that we go about operating this model is that homelessness is an experience, is not an identity. And what we mean by that is that we believe that individuals are experiencing homelessness and that somebody is not homeless, if that makes sense, right? It doesn't define, there's not a ceiling put on somebody's capability because they are unhoused. The other thing that is important, I think, to our model, and we actually have a core value around this, which is we call holistic community. And that is the reality, right? Not just the idea, but the reality that homelessness affects everyone in a community. It affects our city government, it affects our county government, it affects the environment. Every single person who lives in that community, whether they are housed or not, whether they are sheltered or not, it affects small business owners, it affects the impacts on public health and hospitals. And so when we come into a community, when we are in a community, we really want to carry out this model of holistic community, which means that we are absolutely addressing and advocating for the needs of our team members. Those are our program participants who are either unhoused or at risk of losing their housing, and oftentimes somewhere on kind of the recovery path from homelessness. So maybe someone who's just been housed, but they're really still not stable there yet. They haven't figured out what that new life being housed looks like, and they're still needing some more community support. And at the same time, we want to be able to partner with and honor the experiences of these other sectors who are being impacted. So when we can sit down and have a conversation with a business owner, for example, who's just totally fed up, right? They have just lost their patience with what's going on around their business. They feel like it's absolutely impacting their livelihood. And this is the way that they keep a roof maybe over their head and their family's head, right? And so we want to be able to come in and say, hey, we hear your experience, and that's also valid. So what's a solution? What can we do together to address this in a compassionate way? We want to be able to empower our business owners, our housed neighbors who are feeling some frustrations, as much as we empower our team members, our program participants, to really look at what is the solution, what can we all do, because there is a solution and it absolutely requires all of us. And that's part of our changing the perception, right? Changing that narrative around homelessness is a really important part of our mission. So DST kind of, in a nutshell here, right? We are building teams that restore hope and purpose by providing a path to recover from homelessness. That's our goal. That's our mission. That's what we're trying to live out on a day-to-day basis. So here's our model. And I guess a little bit more of a nutshell. And guys, please forgive me. I'm actually like moving around my Zoom screen so that I can see my slides here, see the important pieces that I don't want to miss. So what we do is really based in a psychosocial rehabilitation model. And so we utilize a meaningful daily activity. A meaningful daily activity, it actually stemmed out of Alzheimer's research. And it was initially used to help treat the symptoms of Alzheimer's. And what was discovered pretty early on was that, hey, this actually has really beneficial effects for people who are experiencing mental illness. And so this is one of the ways in which people's symptoms, they report a big decrease in symptoms is by having something that they get up, that they look forward to on a daily basis, that adds some structure and gives them a sense of purpose. And so our meaningful daily activity, we facilitate that in different ways in the different communities that we're in. And I'll talk about that in a few slides. But here in Sacramento and in West Sacramento, and our most common method for facilitating our meaningful daily activity is through community beautification. And so that community beautification piece looks like our team members who you see here in the picture. These are two of our awesome team members over in West Sacramento on the Riverwalk. But they're going out and they're picking up litter and debris and biohazardous needles. And most of the time they're doing this from areas that are heavily encamped. So to do that, we're also enabling them to perform peer-to-peer outreach while they're out there. And we'll talk about that a little bit more later as well. It also helps us to facilitate, right, changing that narrative, changing that perception. So when we have community members who are driving by and they're seeing the same person that maybe they crossed the street, right, because they didn't want to walk by them a few weeks ago, and now they're seeing them in a bright yellow shirt, having this beautiful impact in the community, we're really able to start to address, hey, maybe some of the perceptions that you're holding around homelessness and everyone who experiencing homelessness, maybe some of those are a little rigid. Maybe that's not what everybody is like, right? Maybe there are some exceptions to that, and we can start to dig in a little bit deeper into that conversation. And then the second piece of it is employment readiness training. So while we no longer call ourselves a workforce development program, that is where our roots are. And so our goals are generally centered around employment readiness and community reintegration. And so we're looking at building those soft skills, like showing up on time, working with the team towards a common goal, conflict resolution, taking care of a uniform, right, with their shirts. And the other piece of that is that daily interaction. So our team members come and they're participating with us Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. until noon. We're able to really start to see what are some of the patterns, what are some of the things that have been barriers for you to meeting your goals and your goals as you've identified them. So we're able to see that stuff start to pop up because we have so much daily interaction with our team members. For the meaningful daily activity, we provide a basic needs stipend. This is a really important distinction that I want to make very, very clear because it's easy to get this confused. We are not employing our team members. This is not employment. It is not meant to take the place of employment. We are building a bridge from chronic unemployment to reemployment, to re-entering the workforce. So our basic needs stipends came up with that idea about 6 months, actually, to really formalize this after DST's launch in 2005. And that was because we looked at the barrier. What are the barriers that are keeping folks from engaging with the team, from engaging in case management? And that was waiting in line for food, recycling so that they could have some cash to meet those basic needs, to get a motel room if it was, or some hygiene products. We looked at the fact that with an EBT card, that's so great that you have CalFresh, but you can't walk into the deli and get a hot sandwich, right? So if you can only get cans of soup, that's a barrier. So the basic needs stipend came about as a way to ensure that people are able to meet their most basic on that hierarchy of needs, that most basic level, the bottom of the period needs, right? We're gonna try and do everything we can to get you into shelter, and we're gonna try to give you the resource that you need to know, you know what, I know where my next meal is coming from. I know how I'm going to buy deodorant or tampons or whatever that need is. You know what, I actually might be able to have enough to like get my son or daughter or grandchild or sister, some loved one, like a gift from Walmart for Christmas, right? These are the kinds of things that we realize we're really keeping people in survival mode rather than being able to move forward into goal setting mode. The other piece of that is case management, right? Everybody on the team has access to intensive case management in an opt-in style, and I'll talk about that in a bit as well. And then a support network. And that's really a huge part of what this is changing the community of people and providing a community of people that are really rooting for someone's success, for them moving forward and reaching the goals that they have identified for themselves. Okay, so the basic needs stipend, we just dove into that, but here's an idea of kind of the intent of basic needs stipend. So there are some pretty regulated things that we can use the stipend for and that we can't. And all of this is, according to California employment law and HUD and all that good stuff. So what it never ever is cash. We're never giving cash or a check into someone's hand, but we're providing them with gift cards to Walmart, Safeway, Dollar Tree, Arco, Ross. Those are the places that we're able to provide to. And it was interesting, we actually ran a report about 6 months ago, maybe a little bit over that now, and found out that 83% of our team members take out that stipend for food. So whatever community that they're in, they're taking it out to places like Safeway and Dollar Tree and self-reporting that that's being used to get food, especially hot food. So that was an interesting bit of information for us. Then we can also allocate that basic needs stipend towards a storage payment. Oftentimes we hear that this is the reason why someone is hesitant. This is a barrier to entering shelter, is that they're going to have to get rid of all of their stuff. And they're very reluctant to do that. What if I'm not successful in shelter? What if I end up back on the street, but I don't have my tent and I don't have a tarp and I don't have my sleeping bag, right? That's really stressful. That really is a very real barrier. So we're able to pay for storage, which is oftentimes helpful. Transportation, we do RT passes, monthly RT passes. We can allocate stipends amount towards a rent payment that we'll make directly to the landlord. So that's huge. And then communication, we can pay for phones with it as well. And this is really, again, right, like not meant to take the place of salary or living wage. This is a stepping stone. Okay, so our ladder of success. And please, someone feel free to let me know, maybe pop it in the chat if I'm talking too quickly. I know I have a tendency to do that. So we have these different steps that a team member can get to. Our team members, again, are our program participants. These are our unhoused or unsheltered or marginally housed individuals that we are working with. Really important to us, that distinction. We say that a team member is a proper noun because we're all on the same page here. We are not experts in how anybody else should be running their lives at all, far from it. But we are here to just be on their team and to partner with them on their journey to reaching their goals. So when anyone joins the team and they self-elect to join the team, so it's a completely voluntary basis, they earn a yellow shirt and they're a team member, which is fantastic. The next step up from that is to be a team lead, which we call a green shirt, obviously, because the shirt is green, pretty self-explanatory, right? And in order for somebody to move into a green shirt role, it means that they've gone through our leadership academy for a month, which is the equivalent of 2 at least leadership academies that they've participated in. Heather has built out just this incredible curriculum over the course of the last year. It's really amazing in helping to teach leadership skills. And then they've trained with a green shirt with a current green shirt as well. And then we've tried to mimic the employment process. So in order for someone to move into a green shirt, they have to actually sit down with their case manager, create a resume, a cover letter, submit that to their project manager, schedule an interview, and then gain some feedback as well. So really trying to integrate the employment readiness piece of this. There is also an opportunity for a manager role, and then our graduate shirt is that gray shirt that you see over on the right. So that's our little ladder of success. What we have found is that when we're working with individuals who we have kind of a timeline, right? And we know that employment is going to take more than a year for them, but they're really working hard on their goals. Oftentimes we see it when folks have extensive legal issues that we're trying to navigate through, then we can move them into a green shirt role. And then we're actually able to put down on their resume that they've gone through leadership training, that they've developed these skills in conflict resolution and communication, and that they're really ready for the next step in employment. And that can go a long way with an employer. Okay, let's see here. I'm going to move my screen again. So please just hang tight with me here for just a moment. Awesome. Okay, peer-to-peer, here's where we are. So I touched on this a little bit earlier. And the reason why we have our teams strategically placed where they are, and that's so that they can engage in this peer-to-peer model. And that's happening not only when they're on the team, working alongside their peers in a peer-led crew. So the folks who have the keys to the Connex, to all the storage materials, the tools, who are taking attendance, who are issuing write-ups and engaging in conflict resolution right there on the spot, are team members. So this really is a team that is self-led. This is, Heather says this a lot, and I just love it so much, right? It's not for us without us. And so these are our team members who are really driving the day-to-day forward motion of the teams. The other great thing, and I got ahead of myself, sorry, is that our team members are able to engage in peer-to-peer outreach. So on each one of our crews, we have a team member in one of these yellow shirts or possibly a green shirt who is trained in outreach. We call them an outreach specialist. It's kind of an additional leadership role. They have backpacks with hygiene kits, and they're able to provide referrals to the shelters as well. And so we all know, right? I'm not talking to anyone who doesn't know this in the room, but it's one thing for me to strap on a backpack, or for Heather to strap on a backpack and to go out there and say, hey, we've got candy and condoms and water, and we've got this really great program and you should join it. That's swell, and we may get some response. But when somebody who they've been living with, or who they're seeing every single day, and they're able to actually witness the change in this person's life, this person's demeanor, that's far, far, far more effective than anything that I'm going to be able to do once a week as a staff person. And so the way that somebody can join our team is through our team meeting. This is a cool quote from someone who visited one of our team meetings, I believe over in Santa Cruz. Our team meetings are kind of the heart and soul of our program. They happen once a week in every single community. In Sacramento, they happen on Tuesdays at Meadowview, and that's a closed meeting that's just for guests of the Meadowview Women's Shelter, or Navigation Center, excuse me. And then they also take place on Wednesdays at L Street at St. John's Lutheran Church. If any of you are familiar with that site, there's a lot of other stuff that goes on there. St. John's is super active in the community. And that meeting takes place at 12:30 every Wednesday. Would be happy to share that, and would just love to see any of you there. It's open to everyone. We love having guests, so please don't hesitate to come on by. And this is where folks come when they're interested in joining the team. So anyone can show up there at Wednesday at 12:30. This is also where all of our team members come together to, just kind of share space together. So we celebrate birthdays, we sing happy birthday. We shout out successes, we shout out one another. We share resources, we share employment resources. We try to get employers there as frequently as we can to meet with people right there on the spot. So this is really our little hub. And it's where we get to talk about what's going on in our worlds and our lives, and connect and really remind one another, like, oh yeah, there's a whole room here full of people who care about me and are going to notice if I don't show up tomorrow. That's a real thing that I have in the world. And we really want folks to walk away with that reminder that there's a room full of people who care, and any Wednesday that they want to show up, we're going to be there. And more accurately, Heather's going to be there since I am no longer there every Wednesday. These are some awards that we've won. This is kind of our bragging slide. Proud of the work that we've been able to do here in California. And then this is a map of our current locations, our geography here in Northern California. So from our initial launch in downtown Palo Alto in 2005, we've grown into 16 Northern California communities in 11 counties. And excited to report that Solano County will be our newest county coming on board in the new year with a launch in the city of Vallejo. So we're excited about that. Okay, so this was actually something that Nika and I had talked about that we really wanted to cover, which is like what has happened during COVID-19? What has the impact been? And for us, it's been pretty huge. It's actually really changed the way that that we do programming. So please excuse my kind of hastily thrown together slide here, but we did a whole lot of pivoting in 2020. So what that kind of started with for us was at the onset of COVID-19, you know, our teams get together in a group and they share waste baskets and they share pickers and they go out into the community and are sharing space with others in oftentimes very densely encamped areas. And so obviously you can see why this was quite concerning, working especially with a vulnerable population. So we shut down, of course, as everyone did in March, but we're really antsy to figure out what the heck can we do, and knew that our team members were immediately started letting us know, hey, I'm really struggling without the structure of seeing my people at 8 a.m., of showing up somewhere at 8 a.m., of having our weekly team success meetings. Like it hit our folks immediately and very, very hard, that sense of isolation and loss. The other thing that became apparent immediately was, as all of you know, there was so much confusion about what resources were still open, what resources were no longer available, the changing hours, you know, where can I use a bathroom? I don't know where to go without McDonald's being open or Starbucks being open. Where can I charge my phone? All of these things became incredibly real very, very quickly. With the library being closed, where can I go inside to find respite? All of this stuff that we've all lived through, right? So one of the first things that was kind of on our agenda, if any of you have heard of the incredible mobile shower program called Show Up SAC, the first thing to do was to advocate to help them find a space to stay. So we did that through contacting directly the mayor's office and city council members and saying like, hey, this is vitally needed right now. You can't delay this another few months. This needs to happen now. Thankfully, St. John's opened their space and they were able to get the blessing to have mobile showers there. Once that happened, we kind of joined forces with them because we didn't know, none of us knew, right, what it was going to look like to get folks into shelter. And we had a lot of smaller faith-based run shelters who were closing their doors, not wanting to endanger their volunteer base of generally like older participants. And so we thought, okay, there isn't any clear direction coming down here. We're going to start doing VI Spadats for like everyone who comes. And so we did. We started just engaging folks in VI Spadats, helping to hand out meals to figure out what that looked like until we, you know, until there was a clearer path forward for Project Room Key and Project Home Key. Over on the YOLO side of the river, we had a much easier time navigating entrance into Project Room Key and Home Key. And so we did that really, really quickly. And we're able to get all of our team members placed in Project Room Key and motel rooms within the first few weeks that it was open. And that was fantastic. We now run our program in West Sacramento out of the Project Home Key site, which is at the roadway on West Capitol. We're thrilled to be there partnering with Project Home Key, and we're really excited to be starting the first community garden behind Project Home Key, where our team members will actually be cultivating additional produce to meet nutritional needs of the guests and participants of Project Home Key and Room Key. So we're stoked about that. But I think the biggest turn for us here in Sacramento was just figuring out how we could still engage our team members in a safe way and how we could meet the needs and the ever-changing needs of the community. So Sacramento Steps Forward actually reached out and said, hey, you know, we've got all these meals and we need people who know how to deliver them, who are willing to go out into these heavily encamped areas and deliver the food. And is that something that you'd be up to? And we said, yep, let's do it. So by partnering with SSF, we were able to rent this beautiful truck that you see in the picture here, and bring along this beautiful team member who you see in the picture here. This is David. And he was one of our team members who was really, really, really struggling. We were able to go out and deliver over 200 meals a day throughout the course of spring and summer in some areas of Sacramento that we didn't typically get to. The other piece of it for us was that we realized, oh, so sorry, everyone. Here's my Adobe. Now we all know I need to update Adobe. Was that we realized that without folks being able to go to one central location, pick up meals, and then dispose of the debris there, these areas were just inundated with debris because we were delivering meals in styrofoam packages with these like forks and knives and napkins wrapped in plastic. And within a week or two, we were like, we have to do something about this. What we do is community beautification. And so we need to be able to continue to do that. And so SSF was really great in working with us. And we were actually able to start getting crews out to these locations. So we would have a crew that came out and delivered the meals. And then we would have a crew that did cleanup from the trash that was created from the meals that we were delivering. So we were able to do that through August of 2020, which was really a fantastic way for us to be able to engage our team members in really meaningful work that they loved in a safe way. The other interesting piece that came about for us was that we actually, in very early 21, stopped partnering with the city of Sacramento. And the city of Sacramento are who brought us to the Sacramento region in partnership with the Winter Triage Shelter on Railroad Drive. That's how we started here in Sacramento. And so it was a huge step for us to say, hey, this funding no longer works for us. And we need to step back and do something differently here for kind of the integrity of our programming, to honor our team members, and to find a more sustainable future in the Sacramento area. And so we did that, and it was really scary. I'll just be really honest with all of you. It was really, really scary. We basically cut our entire budget down to about 15% of what it had been. And so we had a bumpy few months where we were really running on faith, and just had to believe that the integrity of our work was going to shine through. And just like we say, you know, not for us without us, like we're not going to move forward without our team members. It's not an option. It's not who we are, and it's not what we're going to do. And so one like incredible blessing that's come from that is just a renewed sense of our mission and our integrity. But in addition to that, we've been able to partner with SHRA and to bring our employment programming and our teams to both the Meadowview Navigation Center and now to the X Street Navigation Center, where Heather just launched the team a couple of weeks ago. They're out and about in the Broadway area, which is super, super exciting. If you see them, please honk, please wave, please yell hello out your window, because that's the good, juicy stuff that we live for. That's the stuff that helps our team members know that they're really making a difference in the area. And so that brings us almost to kind of the end here. I have one or two more slides, but along with that, you know, our teams are out, and they're out engaging in this community beautification 4 hours a day, 5 days a week in these bright yellow shirts. And for a lot of our folks, the biggest thing that can happen during that time is maybe a police officer or a community member actually having a positive interaction with them, saying thank you to them. For a lot of our folks, it's the first time in a very, very, very long time that they've been recognized in a positive manner by their fellow community members. And I mean, it honestly never gets old. I can't articulate enough the impact of that in a team member's life. For somebody to stop and say, hello, thank you so much. It looks so much better around here. That impact carries them through to their next goal, to their next 5 goals, because it's really a process of reshaping how our team members see themselves and how they view themselves as part of our larger community. And that's the goal at the end of all of this, right? At the end of the, showers and handing out meals and picking up debris and peer-to-peer outreach and employment training, all of that is so wonderful and needed and necessary. But we have to start with the seed of, I deserve good things. I have a purpose in this community. I have a sense of dignity. And with that sense of dignity, I can move on into the next really scary step of applying for a job and sitting down for an interview. All of the work that needs to happen for somebody to be ready to take that next step is a huge part of what our team is getting from being out and about in the community and recognized by the community. So if you see them, please stop. Please say hey. Please say thank you. It will go much farther than you even might realize. So throughout COVID, and throughout all the rest of our time, throughout the last 16 years, we've asked our team members to participate in an anonymous and voluntary annual survey. And I could give you guys some numbers about how much debris we've picked up. I can give you numbers about how many people have entered employment, and all of that is really wonderful and phenomenal. But this is actually how we measure if we're doing our job. So this is just a little bit of a highlight. There are about 10 additional questions that aren't on here, but this is a snapshot, right? And so we look at this and we can say, okay, from this anonymous voluntary survey, we had a 98% participation rate, which is fantastic. We know that 100% of our team members are proud to be a team member and take pride in the service they perform. That's phenomenal. We also know that 58% are using the emergency room less since joining Downtown Streets team. That's also great, but we look at that number and we're like, cool. How do we get that to 80? How do we do that a little bit better next year? And we really want our team members to tell us, this is what's working for us. This is what isn't working for us. And the piece that you don't see here, right, is the kind of fill in the blank. Like, if you could change something, what would it be? If you could add something to the program, what would that be and what would that look like? Or is there something that's really not working for you? And so we really want to assist. And so what we do then is we can bring in volunteers, or we bring in staff from like the other side of the river to help folks who need a little bit of help with reading, who struggle with literacy, who struggle with writing. We want to make sure that folks have the support and resources that they need without having to directly interact with one of the staff that they're working with, so that they can feel comfortable in giving their fully honest answer. Well, let me find my arrow. Here we go. This is just a quick snapshot at some of our funding. We try to have a pretty diverse funding portfolio. And we like to partner because we know that hey, this model hits on a lot of different areas. So it can come all the way from CDBG funding to EPA funding to funding from a downtown association to the more far more traditional methods of homeless services funding or social services funding. Of course, wouldn't it be ideal if we could get to just being funded by individual donations, completely unrestricted? Maybe one day, right? We'll aim for it. Get rid of that red tape. So that's the end of the presentation on kind of who we are and what we're up to here in Sacramento since our launch in 2018. The second part of this conversation that I just want to open up the floor for is identifying and bridging gaps. So Nika asked this great question, right? Of like, what are some of the gaps that you see? And so this comes from our unique perspective, and ours is only one. So we're really excited to hear everyone else's perspective and what they think could be done differently or added. One of the things that comes up for us a lot is this issue with housing. This issue with housing, right? Like, it's just this one thing. It's this huge, massive thing. And there are lots of issues with housing. But the little piece that I'm going to talk about from our perspective and kind of introduce the idea up here of EBRA is, so we work with individuals and we're trying to help them gain employment and get back on their feet. And that's a wonderful thing to do, we think. Here's the thing. that even if somebody is earning living wage, which in the city of Sacramento is $16.50 an hour without benefits. So if somebody is earning $16.50 an hour without benefits, they can't get a place to live, but they're making too much money for most of our voucher resources. And so what is this individual to do? We want to work with them to get a job, but let's say they still have really awful credit, or they've got an eviction on their record, or they've got some sort of background thing that's going to come up if a landlord runs it, right? All of these barriers to housing. And so if somebody doesn't fit the mold for one of the traditional vouchers, and we're able to get them placed into employment, now any voucher is off of the table. They're making a living wage, but they can't actually live anywhere. And so we see that being a huge issue. We literally just faced this, and we're really fortunate enough to work with, I don't know if Jenna Abbott is on this or not, but she's the executive director of the River District PBID, and she was amazing in working with us to be able to get this individual down, even though it didn't feel great for her, right? To the point where he wouldn't be ruled out of his housing voucher, but he could have employment while we work, have a really clear plan and path forward so that this person can get the things that they need to take care of over the course of the next year taken care of, so that she can bump them up to a living wage so that they can find housing without the voucher, right? But let's be honest, like Jenna's one person and not everyone can be employed through the River District. So what do we do the rest of the time? How do we address this? One of the ways that we've done this in the past and in Santa Clara County, and it's a conversation that I've kind of tiptoed around up here in Sacramento, but I'd love to put on the table in a more formal manner, is this employment-based rental assistance. And the idea behind this is that folks can move in, we can partner with landlords for folks to move in and for them to be paying 30%. It's based on the rapid rehousing idea, right? 30% of their income. And as their income increases, as they gain more employment, better employment, still have engagement with the case manager, they're able to bump that up until within anywhere from 18 to 24 months, they're taking over their full rental and they're getting rid of that subsidy. So it's like a longer term rapid rehousing that is then the eligibility is based around somebody gaining employment. That employment can be 5 hours a week as long as it's not temporary. So it's a discussion that I'd love to have, just more input and thought around, right? Love to hear other folks' thoughts on that, if that would be something that meets needs for the folks that you're working with as well. And then the second thing is mental health. And I'm actually going to stop talking amazingly here for a moment. And I'm going to let Heather chat about this. Heather is leading our teams at Meadowview and at X Street, where we have some really unique mental health needs and challenges. So I'm going to let her tackle this next gap that we've identified.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Rachel. It is a pleasure to be speaking to you all this afternoon. We are seeing, obviously, if someone is having the experience of living outdoors and being unhoused, the chances are great that it didn't happen overnight, right? It took a series of events, a series of life choices, perhaps maybe a lot, of trauma in their background to kind of get them to where they are. And there's nothing that we like more as social workers than the quick turnaround story, right? Like someone just got out of jail and then they were on the street for a week and we're going to put them in the shelter, and a month later they're employed, and 6 weeks later they've got a home. And this is kind of like the quick turnaround story that we all love to hear. But looking at the long-term sustainability of that, when you've had this very traumatic background, pushing someone through into housing and employment in a very quick way often isn't very sustainable. And what we see is that, it may last for short-term success, but we see this kind of cycle of someone coming back out onto the street and then entering into the system again. So making that change and understanding that those changes take time, and allowing access to making the changes, I always say to our team members, heart and head changes, not just physical life changes about where you are, right? Really, as Rachel said, getting that sense of self-worth, addressing especially the more serious clinical mental health issues, allowing access to that. So kind of helping them to kind of slow that roll of change so that it can be more sustainable long-term.
Awesome. Thank you, Heather. Yeah, really feels so necessary, right? To allow folks the time to actually start to address this, so that they really can have sustainable success and not have to walk away. We all know this is true just for humans in general. I think when we try at something and it doesn't work out, there's a piece of failure that we carry with us. And how big or small that chunk of failure is, it's with us, and it can have really detrimental effects on reaching out for help again, on forward progress, and so I think that that's really something when we look at mental health. What are the mental health needs? What are we doing to really meet those needs and make sure that those resources are available? And are we giving folks enough time to do that? Rather than creating programming that works for the funder, we'd really love to create programming that works for the community and for the individuals. And that's such an easy thing to say. That's such like, oh, like, yeah, of course. Why wouldn't we do that? But any of you who are, especially in like a leadership role with a nonprofit, and you're, the one responsible for contracts and budgets and keeping people employed, right, and all these things, that is not an easy thing to accomplish at all. These are very constrained choices. And there's a piece of me that really thinks like, how are we going to change that if us as service providers, especially as nonprofit agencies, don't sit back and say, something here isn't working, and we don't want to have this funding if it means that we can't operate successfully. And that's a huge ask, and also requires defining what is our definition of success. Is our definition of success how many people we see through the program? Or is our definition of success how many people we really root down with and say, you know what, this is probably going to take 16 tries over the course of the next 4 years, and we're going to be here for all of those because success doesn't fit into like this time frame or this little window. And so how can we meet you as many times as it takes for you to be able to reach the goals that you're aiming for, and maybe even increase those goals, right? Lots of folks come to us and they're like, oh, I just like want the gift cards, or just like want the ID. And then they get the ID and they're like, well, maybe maybe I could do a resume, right? And that's kind of how the progression goes. And we know that that's real, and that is exaggerated when someone is really struggling with mental health issues, with mental illness. And that just being on the street is a traumatic experience on its own. And so everyone who's coming in, who's walking in the doors to us, has experienced trauma, and has experienced trauma very, very recently. Okay, well, we're going to stop talking. We could talk about this for hours and hours, right? And just open up the floor for questions. I'm actually going to take down my slides so that I have a better view of the chat and of all of you, or stop sharing screen is actually what I meant here. There we go. That way I can see if someone has a hand up. I'm going to try my best to go back in this chat and see if there are some questions that popped up over the course of this that have changed. Let's see. Are there any orgs that do wellness sweeps among the unhoused? And any work trade programs, housing in exchange for, say, community cleanup? That's a great question. I don't know if there are any programs that do housing in exchange for community cleanup. If there are, we would love to learn about you, because we don't know about you, and we'd really love to partner with you. That would be wonderful. So please do ping us. Let's see here. Give me just a second here. I'm trying to go back and make sure I don't miss any questions. So finding kind of where the introductions switched over into questions here.
Rachel, I'm seeing one here that's from Dasha. Are you working with any mental illness, addiction, and job training programs?
Awesome. Yeah, so we obviously don't do everything in-house. We don't offer everything in-house. So we absolutely will refer to organizations that provide assistance with mental health. We're in an interesting addiction as well. We really love to partner with harm reduction services also, just big fans. Job training as well will help with placement and job training programs, especially if someone has an interest, like forklift training, for example, right? That's something that comes up sometimes. If someone wants a guard card, if someone wants to do their serve safe, we'll assist with placement into any one of those programs. Something interesting with the mental illness piece of it is that, so our work has changed from having these kind of autonomous teams that operated through this city contract in downtown and the Broadway corridor and the River District with a lot of freedom. That's switched a lot of it actually, to us partnering with SHRA and VOA in the Meadowview and the X Street navigation centers. And so we are now not the ones primarily in Sacramento who are providing case management. And so there's this kind of line, we're providing intensive employment services at both of these locations. And then we're providing, the team as part of that as well. And so a lot of the mental illness and the mental health stuff is actually coming from the case management side with VOA. So we will absolutely support that. We will absolutely do a referral when that's appropriate. But for us now, it more often looks like working with their case manager, their VOA case manager, to ensure that we're assisting to meet those mental health needs.
Thanks, Rachel. A follow-up question is, are there any forms of payment if the community member has additional needs besides the ones listed, such as transportation, food, etc.?
So additional forms of payment. So we can pay for things like getting vital docs. We oftentimes are able to pay for court fees and fines. Again, I'm generalizing, right? And it can depend a lot on the person's unique and individual situation. But we will work with our team members to try and be able to make that payment in any case that we possibly can. And that's when it looks like our finance team making a payment directly to whatever that third party entity is, right? If it's the DMV or maybe DUI classes or the courts, whatever that is. Otherwise, we have the gift cards that are available to folks to take out, and it's completely up to the team member how they choose to allocate that stipend funds. But I should say with a caveat there, it has to meet what is defined as a basic need. So for example, if someone moves into housing and they're like, well, I really wanted cable, we can't pay for cable because that is not defined as a basic need. As much as I think that like having a connection with family is really important and should be considered a basic need, if someone says, hey, I've got this amount in stipend and I want tickets to go, visit my tia, like we can't do that. That's not defined as a basic need. I hope that helps to clarify.
And then another question is, what happens after graduation? Yeah,
this is a great question. So our goal is to stay in touch with our team members. This has been a tricky one as we have pivoted in our funding and our contracting and therefore what our programming has looked like over the course of the last year and a half. Only because prior to COVID, we were just in the initial phases of creating an alumni association, which is something that we do have in the majority of our communities, and really getting that alumni association together. And so those would be folks who have graduated from the program. We find a time when, as many people as possible can get together. They do really fun, sweet things to help mentor and support the current team members. And they know all of our team members, whether they were involved in the Alumni Association or not, they know that our doors are open. They can come back anytime. So we have a lot of team members who come back and say, okay, I got a job at Raley's. That job has been great, but it's been a year or two, and now I want to move on to a different job, right? I want to get a better job or something that's more in line with my interests that I've discovered. And so we'll absolutely support them in that. Just had a team member who come back who still has her job after 3 years, but unfortunately lost her housing. And so we're working with her again while she's still employed to regain stable housing. So absolutely, doors open, and we try to keep in touch with those folks to the best of our ability and whenever possible.
This next question is from Bella. I understand that there is a lot at play, but is there a general amount of time that it takes from a person joining the DST team to then hopefully being referred to housing and other support?
Yeah, that's a great question. And obviously this does vary enormously. So we have team members who come in and, you know, while they're on the wait list, before they're even on the team, sometimes they're engaging in employment, they're engaging in, we have a lot of folks who walk in, aren't on the team, but need a referral to shelter, which we're able to do right there on the spot. So we'll always work with folks to get them in shelter as quickly as possible, to get them on the community queue so that they can access housing, right? If we have a landlord that we're working with and someone has income, absolutely. Our goal is going to be to get someone inside and employed really as quickly as they are ready for those two things. Our program is a year long. And so some folks obviously move off way before a year and they're able to graduate successfully. Some folks it takes longer. And so if it's going to take longer for someone, we'll keep them with us if they're engaging in employment and case management until they can graduate successfully. I know that our data and impact manager ran a report about a year and a half ago. And I think the number that he ended up coming up with was that it was like 7.5 months was the average for somebody in all of our communities. That hasn't been run since COVID. I'm curious to see if that's changed. And I feel like it has for us. I feel like now it's actually a little bit longer. And those of you who are working in the field know that there were some really unique impacts from unemployment. And so that affected us in a really unique way. If somebody was just, for example, hypothetically, receiving unemployment throughout COVID for a job that was listed as a recycler, for example. If this happened to happen, there was not a tremendous amount of motivation to apply for a job making $14 an hour at Walmart, right? And right, wrong, however you want to view that, it just is what it was. It just was the reality that we were facing, and we saw it like widespread. And so we're really just starting to come off of that. And it's really been interesting to see in the last couple of months, we're seeing a lot of folks come back to us. And we're seeing a lot of folks be like, oh, okay, you know what, I'm ready again now. And so we'll see what that looks like, and would be happy to touch base again in 6 months and see what some more accurate, newer numbers are on that.
Thanks, Rachel. The next one is, what level of struggle or homelessness does a person have to be in to participate?
So right now in Sacramento, so we haven't had eligibility criteria in the past, although we've worked primarily with individuals who are currently experiencing homelessness and chronic homelessness and unemployment. In Sacramento now, because we are operating out of primarily a site-based model at this point in time, for somebody to join the X Street Navigation Center team, they must be a guest of the X Street Navigation Center, and likewise at Meadowview. We do have a team that we partner with Blue Diamond Growers, and those folks are out 3 days a week. We have 5 team members in the River District area cleaning the perimeter of Blue Diamond Growers. And for those teams, we won't say it's eligibility criteria, but we will prioritize individuals who are outside or at imminent risk of losing housing over folks who are housed, and maybe that's kind of marginally, but they're really looking for a sense of community. For those folks, we're going to ask them to work with our case manager to find a more suitable volunteer option. So we're primarily working with individuals and prioritize individuals who are currently experiencing homelessness or at imminent risk of losing their housing.
Thanks, Rachel. I just wanted to note that if you have any questions that you would like to voice out, please feel free to unmute yourself or use the raise hand feature. We'll surely call on you. I'll continue pulling out the questions that we've received in chat and also at registration. So the next question that we are pulling out here is, how do you best evaluate someone's ability to work?
Yeah, that's a great question. And so once again, like we go on our team members. So our team members volunteer, they come. 90% of our folks come to us because they have a friend on the team or they've seen the team out and about. And so they're very, very aware of the physical demands of like, hey, I'm going to be walking for 4 hours a day and, you know, using this picker to pick up litter and debris. And so they're really well aware of kind of what they can expect to be doing on a daily basis and whether or not they're physically able to. With that said, if we oftentimes will have someone come and say, hey, I really want to participate, I really want to be present, but you know, for whatever reason, myriad reasons, I'm not able to. I'm not able to walk the distance, or I need to be close to a bathroom, or something that's coming up for us that's unique at the X Street Navigation Center is we have a few guests right now who actually are in the process of gosh, I'm sorry, I just lost my words, of rehabbing from substance abuse. And so for them right now, it just feels really important that they be able to stay on campus and not leave campus to go out into the street and be around, you know, potentially someone that they were using with, or just the kind of that temptation. And so Heather's been working to figure out a model where folks can stay on campus and do cleanup in a much smaller area for folks who struggle with walking the long distance a little bit more, or like I said, need access to the bathroom. But once again, unless somebody has like a very clear, you know, I just had a heart attack, or, you know, has been in the hospital or had something else going on, we let folks let us know what they're able to do, and then we work with them from there.
And then this next one could be applicable to you both, but perhaps more directed towards Heather. How soon do participants begin engaging in the workforce services when at Meadowview Shelter?
So I see this is actually kind of similar to the question I see about if people can apply online or if they just show up at St. John's. How our program is designed, Meadowview is a little bit different. So I'll start with that since that was the specific question. The meeting, as Rachel said, at Meadowview that happens on Tuesdays is closed. It is not a meeting that's open to the public. It's only for guests of the Navigation Center. So what happens is that our team members obviously come to that meeting. It happens on Tuesday mornings. And any guest of the shelter is always welcome at that meeting as well. They need to show up at that meeting. They can kind of sit in, see what we're about. Usually they already know, as Rachel said, because they've seen their peers engaging in DST activities on campus. They can come in the day after they check in. That if they check in that morning, they can come to the meeting that morning. The access to the meeting is always open to all of the shelter guests. It happens right there on site. We do ask, we have a wait list. So they come and they can put their name on the wait list. They have to come to at least 2 meetings in a row because we are very committed to helping them. We want to make sure that they're committed, just as committed in their decision to join DST. So we ask that they come to at least 2 meetings in a row. And then when there's a space available, they can get their yellow shirt and start, which is great. We do not have, switching now to our meeting at St. John's, we do not have a way for people to apply online. That's not something that we do. You do have to just show up at St. John's, 12:30 on Wednesday. That meeting is open to the public. And again, even at X Street, even for guests of the X Street Navigation Center, they do have to come to that meeting to get on the wait list. And again, at least 2 weeks in a row. So, you know, we had 2 gentlemen who are guests at X Street who came today. And I told them if they're engaged, they're coming back next week. Next week, I'd be happy to welcome them and give them their yellow shirts. So that's kind of how the process works.
Thanks, Heather. We have another great question here. How can I advocate for my client while also giving them space to be independent?
Ooh, what a cool question. I love this. And this is something that we see a lot, right? Like we want to advocate and we're like, yes, you can do it. Go, 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 go. And then sometimes like we are more invested than we realize the team member is. And we're like, oh, wait a minute. I think this has become my goal rather than my team member's goal. I think that that is such an important balance to strike and takes a lot of self-awareness, oftentimes to really sit back. I think that I can only speak to the way that we kind of address that. Right or wrong, is we really believe in an opt-in model. And so our employment specialists at Meadowview and X Street, and offering case management to our Blue Diamond crew, it's all opt-in. So the team member decides when they want to meet with the case manager or employment specialist, what that meeting looks like, what they want to talk about, how long that meeting is, when they're ready to apply for a job. We see it as our responsibility to provide all of the resources and then say, okay, what option fits best for you, and then to support someone at the pace that they set. And that pace that they set piece can be a little bit tricky, right? Especially when we're working in the navigation centers where there's this timing piece place, which is really, really different for us and not something that we do internally as part of our model and programming. So finding that balance can be a little bit tricky. But at the end of the day, what I've always kind of come back to, and this really goes back to my days in case management, right, is like having a conversation and really just transparently asking, like, is this too fast? What feels like the next right step for you? And then really honoring that so that I can go to bat for them in the places and at the pacing that they let me know works for them. And I can back off when they're like, yeah, I need to take a beat. I need to take a minute. This has been overwhelming. And I think that finding that balance with each individual person is a lot like, it's like, it's a relationship. It's a relationship. And so having that constant conversation, hey, how is it going? Incorporating that into your case management meetings. Is this working for you? Does this pace work for you? How does this feel for you? What's coming up in your body when we talk about this? Hey, I noticed that, your hands are kind of fidgeting. Is this bringing up some anxiety for you? Maybe naming that to help say it's okay. It's okay if that's what that answer is too. I hope that that's answering the question a little bit helpful from my own brain.
Thanks, Rachel. I see another one here. Has your group worked previously with clients with disabilities? If so, what kind of person-centered assistance were you able to provide?
Yeah, that's such a great question. So we work a lot with folks who have both documented and undocumented disabilities going on. And so again, for those folks who have a documented disability or something that's going on, we, like at Meadowview, we have a team that stays on campus versus the team that goes off campus and does community beautification in the greater neighborhood. And so that team is comprised, and we usually always have a team like this in any geography, of individuals who have a documented disability or have like a note from their case manager saying, hey, we've like got a doctor's appointment scheduled, or this person just started a new medication and might need to use the restroom a little bit more, whatever that looks like. And so they can be there on campus, engaging in some really light janitorial, kind of helping out the VOA crew with some of those daily tasks like wiping down tables and chairs and windows. So it's less physically intensive, but they're still able to engage. They're still able to be part of a team. They're still able to get those stipends. And then when it comes to the employment piece of it, right? That piece, we all know that it's so tricky working within disability, but we will always do our best. And I don't think there's ever been a time when we haven't been able to my knowledge in Sacramento, find somebody a job where they're able to stay underneath that cap. If it's like $1,000 a month is kind of generally typically, right, what it is, so that they're able to keep their benefits, but they're able to bridge the gap. Because that's what we see for a lot of our folks on disability. They're like maybe just able to eke out rent, but then there's nothing left over for groceries and for, PG&E and for, gosh, dang, maybe you just want to go get a cup of coffee, right? We want to enable folks to be able to do that. And so if we can help them to get placed into employment where they can stay in that sweet spot, that's really the goal for us. And so far we've been able to do it.
Zuri, I see you're still on, and hopefully that helps answer your question as it's related. And so feel free to chime in if you had any follow-up questions to that. Otherwise, we'll jump into the next one. I'll give you a moment. Okay, I see. We can come back to you, Zuri, if you need. This one is from Sandra. Let's see. Do you see more singles or families? Are funders also partners for employment?
Ooh, juicy questions. I love it. Okay. We see more singles for sure. We generally tend to work with individuals. We do at Meadowview obviously work with a lot of mamas who are working hard to get their kiddos back. And so we want to support them in that path. But yeah, definitely individuals. And then in terms of funders being partners, yes. So Blue Diamond Growers, again, just a fantastic community partner. We've been contracting with them for, goodness gracious, we're in our 3rd year of contracting, I think now. I think that's real. And so they also, we've sent a few folks over for employment opportunities as well. So that's really our only funder. Oh, you know what? I take that back. City of West Sacramento. We contract with the city of West Sacramento in West Sacramento, and we actually just had our first team member get hired on with the city, and he is like over the moon. This was his lifetime goal, was to work for the city, and he's doing it now. Heather got this beautiful picture of him the other day, like with his gear on and his City of West Sacramento truck. It's really been an incredible transformation from someone who was on the brink of death when we started working with him. It's been incredible to watch his journey. I just got chills. But yeah, so we oftentimes do. I would say it's not necessarily the norm, but anytime that we can make that happen, that is like best case scenario.
That sounds really exciting, Rachel. I'm glad to hear. I'm sure others on the call are glad to hear that the client has finally met that goal.
Yeah.
I see another follow-up here from Sandra. Once they show up twice in a row and get their yellow shirt, are they assigned a case manager?
Yeah, another great question. So our folks, so at Meadowview and X Street, each one of those sites has one employment specialist. So if somebody is joining one of those teams, it means that they are currently a guest of that navigation center, which means that they've already been assigned a case manager through VOA. And then we have an employment specialist, and there's one. So that's their person. We've been really lucky so far. We have not had any situations where someone's like, yeah, I don't want to work with that employment specialist. And I think that's because our employment specialists are just incredibly genuine and welcoming, and really open to working with anybody who walks in the door. Like, they take that meet you where you are to heart, and that's how they go about their business. So we don't assign, but there's kind of one person available for them. If somebody was coming to join the Blue Diamond team, so that means that they could be coming kind of from anywhere. There's no eligibility criteria required for that team at all. Then it would really be a matter of like, who has availability right now, who's got a little bit of space in their schedule, or maybe has fewer team members checking in, and we would have that individual, that team member, work with that employment specialist.
And then there's, let's see, this question is, do you table or have representatives who could provide one-on-one employment support, perhaps at the library?
That's a great question. So in terms of providing one-on-one employment support, I would love to grow our capacity to be able to do that. Right now, that would have to look like some sort of contract, because we would need to hire someone. Our folks right now, absolutely, that's really primarily what they do, is one-on-one employment support. However, they're obligated to, X Street, Meadowview, and then Blue Diamond. And so there really isn't room in anyone's schedule or caseload. I hate that word caseload, but to take on something like one-on-one counseling at the library. But that is something, oh my goodness, if there was a way that we could fund to provide that, we would absolutely love to. That would be super cool.
Hopefully if there are any leaders on the call, you hear that call. I see another one. How can folks apply for employment? Perhaps this is, I'll open it up to both of you. But perhaps this is more what the process is in terms of becoming a team member, and the follow-up after.
Okay, I'll answer. Oh, did I talk over someone?
Yeah.
Okay.
I didn't hear anyone.
I'll answer from a couple of perspectives. So if someone's interested in becoming a team member, that's not employment. They're volunteering with us, and they can come to our Wednesday team success meeting, which is at 12:30 at St. John's on L Street every Wednesday, rain or shine. That's how that goes. If somebody is interested in being a staff person, like working for Downtown Streets team as a project manager or an employment specialist or case manager, then you can go onto our website. It's streetsteam.org, and there is a careers tab, and you can look at that and see if there is anything available. We are just kind of closing out the hiring process for a project manager in West Sacramento, and I think we have our candidate, but I'd be happy to let you know, Nika, if that changes. Right now, we're not hiring for any other positions currently. However, with that said, if that changes, if maybe we get some funding to have an employment specialist at the library, for example, then definitely both going to our website, and then we always post on Indeed. So you can check Indeed periodically. Also, feel free to shoot me an email every once in a while. I'd be happy to get back to you. I'm going to put my email in the chat right now and let you know if we maybe have something coming up.
Appreciate that, Rachel. And then if anything becomes available, please let me know. We would be happy to circulate. Let's see. I had another one here, but let me track it. What strategies can be taught regarding job retention?
That's great. Heather, do you want to chat about this one?
Yeah, sure can. So our whole model really is based on that kind of practice, right? It's this volunteer way to practice showing up somewhere in the morning, to practice being dependent on. We have a whole structure of accountability built into the program. So, our team members, when they join the team, get a set of kind of, agreements and rules that we follow together. If, for example, if they don't show up, or if they have an argument, or they're behaving disrespectfully with their shirt on, they can get what we call a write-up. Okay, if they get 3 write-ups within a 30-day period, then they need to take a break. Those write-ups each fall off after 30 days. So it's kind of this very clear structure of choices and accountability for those choices, which I think is really a kind of very pointed, skill of eventually giving them the skills to have that longevity in employment. They're getting the chance to know, and if they do get 3 write-ups within those 30 days and they have to turn their shirt in, they always know absolutely that they are welcome to get right back on that wait list and try again. So we're trying to offer this real practice, so that when it does come time to show up somewhere on time, to know how to take care of a uniform, to know how to behave as an employee, that they're really ready for that. I hope that answers the question.
I love that, Heather. I love that you touched on the accountability piece, because it's so important. I think that what I might add to that is that whenever possible, we really try to build relationships with our employers. So building those pipelines to employment, so that we have consistent employers that we work with, and that way they can feel comfortable and trusting us to say, hey, we really like this person, but here's an issue that's coming up, and can you support us in addressing this issue, which we oftentimes will do, and then so that when they do have an opening, their first thought is, well, let's see if DST has anyone, and maybe working with someone that they wouldn't have necessarily otherwise, if they just, saw their application come through the portal. But we can say, hey, I know that this person has a 6-year gap in employment, or, maybe something's going to come up on their background check. But we also can tell you that, they've shown up every day on time for 6 months, and they've gone through a conflict resolution leadership course, and they've done XYZ, and they are, they get along with all of their team members, and we're really able to build out that resume so that somebody has some more opportunities along with having built those skills that will help them to be successful.
Thank you both for those responses. Very helpful and insightful. You both stated earlier that the DSU program is a one-year it's a one-year commitment for our team members. And so do you guys have different cohorts that are running at the same time, or how does that look like? And then is there a limit or a quota that you are we're trying to achieve? I know quota is kind of not the best word, but is there a limit of how many team members that you are able to accept into your one-year program?
No, that's a great question. So we get funded. Our contracts always look like X number of spots. And so, for example, we'll look at X Street. So for that contract, we will have 15 to 18 team member spots available throughout the course of the next 2 years. And so what we've seen, the trend is to have about 2.5 people per spot. So if you imagine 18 spots at any one point in time, during the course of a year, about 2.5 people are going to funnel through that one spot in that year is what we've seen. And for some of those folks, they're going to funnel through because they graduate successfully, they've got employment, they've got housing, awesome, good to go. Other folks are going to, fall off the team. We won't hear from them for 6 months, and then they're going to come back on the team. And we're going to do that as many times as it takes, just really honoring the incremental progress that they're making each time that they're on the team. And so with that 1-year time frame, ideally, we can help somebody move into employment and stable housing in that 1-year time frame, but that's not always possible. Sometimes it's possible to do it more quickly, and other times it's going to take longer. So if somebody is engaging in case management and employment services, they've got goals that they're working on, we sit down with them and say, okay, it's been about a year. You're not quite there yet, but we kind of have an idea of what steps you still need to take. And how to support you in those steps and the time frame that might accompany that. And so we'll keep somebody with us beyond a year, if that's what it needs to be for them to be able to move into housing and employment and really find success in housing and employment. So we don't want to be pushing people into employment like, oh, here's a job because you're almost at a year. We want to really take the time to dig in and ensure that this person is ready for employment because they are leading the drive for employment. That's really what we're looking for. Obviously, that looks a little bit differently at our navigation center sites because they have their own timeline that they're working on. And so we'll try to complement that as much as possible.
Thanks, Rachel. And this is open to you both. What are some ways to present professional development opportunities to people who are not fully documented?
So for folks who are not fully documented, we've worked with quite a few folks who are not fully documented for employment, and the majority of the time, I would say what ends up happening is that the person, we end up going through the path, and this sometimes takes years and years, right? And so this person we might keep on with us for them to gain citizenship. That's something that we've done several times. Not as many times actually up here in Sacramento, but I had the experience of doing that many times when I lived in the Bay briefly and was working in case management for DST. Otherwise, hey, we're fine with finding the unconventional employment, right? As long as it's a good situation for the person, and that's the biggest piece of it, right? Like, is this potentially abusive, or is this a situation where somebody's going to be taken advantage of? Is this kind of above par? If somebody if keeping somebody housed or getting somebody housed looks like them making some money under the table for a minute, we want to find another more sustainable route for them. And I guess that I'll kind of let that answer that. But we'll keep them on and we'll continue to work with them so that we can see them through the process of being able to work legally. Absolutely, always, as long as they're willing to work with us on that. That's 100% the path we're going to try and take.
Thanks for sharing your thoughts on that, Rachel. And I know that's always it's not always the easiest topic to cover and to broach, and so appreciate that. So I see that we're almost at time here. You all have submitted great questions today. And again, appreciate you, Heather and Rachel, for showing us the amazing work that DST has been doing and the meaningful connections that you've created in our community. I just wanted to say that SSF doesn't, while it's important to provide these HUD mandated trainings, we want to ensure that we're elevating the different and exciting work that each of you have been taking, not just in this past year with COVID, and it's the entire that entire process that you guys have all been dedicating your work and lives to. And we hope that this is not the last time. This is only the beginning of these discussions and elevating each other's great work. And so before I let you all go, I am going to be sharing my screen again and just sharing some quick updates from our end. So if you weren't able to join us yesterday, this is new to you, but if you did, there's some repetition here, but I hope this is still helpful for you all. We are going to be submitting our NOFO applications next week, and then diving more actively into our point in time count preparations for January 2022. And so we do invite you to volunteer through our sign up form online on our website. I will share this link with you all. If you or your colleagues or family members are interested, we would love to have you. We're finalizing these logistics, so you will hear from us more updates on this. And I also wanted to flag that this recording and these session materials from today and from yesterday are going to be published on our website soon, so stay tuned on that. All of the other previous sessions that we've put out this past year are going to be available on there as well. And then we also absolutely appreciate that you complete this post-discussion survey after you leave this meeting. That this survey helps us continue providing trainings and sessions and workshops that are most useful to you in your work. And so really appreciate your time and energy kind of putting that in. So I will put that in chat in a moment. Let's see, I'm gonna exit out of this. I'll drop that in chat, that survey link. Let's see, where is that? And I guess this is our final session for this year. And we, again, appreciate you and your participation today.